Okay, this video is going to show you how to do fade in and fade out effects. And again, the techniques that I apply here to the tile maps, you can do the same thing with sprites, but this is what I want to show you with this video. Now here's my overlay repeating tile map little demonstration. So I've got the Mars planet in the background and it's got the ray bananas in front of everything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that transparent, the hero banana, and I'm going to fade it in slowly. Okay, so that's what we're going to show you how to do. Now I've got my overlay and that's set up, and I've got the alpha at 1. Now when I create these and add these to the tile map manager to actually display them, I'm going to just make a change to my overlay 1, and I'm going to set the alpha to 0, so it shouldn't be visible. So when I run it this time, I shouldn't be able to see it at all. Okay, so it's not visible. It's actually being displayed, but you can't see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bit of code. We're going to need some variables for this that's going to allow us to, using an event, change the transparency so it slowly fades in. Now in order to do this, we're going to need a fade amount. So I'm going to create a float, and this is just below the start title subroutine. So this is going to be, I'm going to call it fade amount. And the way I'm going to make this work is that this is going to be the percentage to fade it in by every second. So if I put 0.1, every second it's going to get 10% less transparent. I'll just put 0.25. That's what I'm going to use that for. Okay. Now I need a little bit of code that will apply the change in the transparency. So I'm going to put void fade in, because that's what we're doing. Let's call it fade in. So this is a subroutine that's going to do this job, and this is what we're going to call from an event. So what this is going to do, I'm doing it to the overlay, so I'm going to say graphics.tm overlay.alpha plus equals, so I'm adding on to the alpha that's already there. Now what I want this 0.25 per second. So if I want a value per second, I ask the event manager and I say value per second, funnily enough, and then give it a value. So what that works out is what 0.25 is chopped up for the current frame that's being rendered. So if I'm running at 100 frames a second, it will automatically divide this value by 100 for me, so that over a second the full 0.25 is applied. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because if the frame rate changes while the game's running, I'll still get a reasonably good result that will hopefully every second still give me about 25%. Okay, so that's actually, value per second is a really useful function. Okay, so that changes the fade. What we want to do is stop doing this, okay, when we get to a thing, but we'll come back to that. Right, let's set up an event. So at the end of my start title subroutine, I'm going to create a new event. So I'm going to say event manager dot add event, new event in brackets. So I want this just to run as fast as it can. So every 100th of a second this event's going to run. Give it a name, fader. Let's call it fade in. And what do I want to run when that event triggers? So every 100th of a second I'm going to run fade, it should find it, fade in. Okay, right, so this event will run this subroutine and apply this fade speed to my overlay. Now when it gets to full alpha, so completely opaque, I don't want to keep running this event, so I'm just going to do a test in here, and I'm going to say if graphics.tm overlay.alpha is greater than or equal to 1, then what I want to do is get rid of the event. So I'm going to say to the event manager, well, you know what, get rid of that event called fading. Okay, and it'll stop running this subroutine because that'll be inefficient to keep running this. There's no point once the alpha's got to the maximum. So let's see the effect of that, and then we'll come back and look at it again, and we'll do a fade out as well. So it's slowly and slowly. It's not that slow. It's only going to take 4 seconds to fade in completely. So let's make it 10% a second. Run it again. So a bit more subtle this time. Okay. So you can see it's going solid. Nah, it's probably a complete solid now. Okay, so we had an event, and that event just runs this subroutine. And this subroutine just adds a little bit to increase the alpha every time it's run. Okay, controlled by this amount. Now we can create a fade out code exactly the same way. Let's call this fade out. So just copied and pasted that. The only difference is going to be we're going to take the fade amount away, and we're going to check that it's got down to 0, the alpha, and then we're going to remove an event, and we'll eventually name it fade out. Okay, right, so I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to comment that one out first, and I'm going to say fade out, and I want it to run fade out. But this time I need to make sure that the alpha at the start is 1. Okay, so I've got fully visible the alpha. I'm going to run an event that's going to run this subroutine called fade out, and that's going to subtract, so that's going to reduce the alpha every time it's run. And when we get down to 0, i.e. fully transparent, we're going to get rid of the event. So let's watch what that one does. So using that same fade amount value, that's going to fade something out. So this is slowly fade away. Okay, now we've got that, what we can do is make it toggle. I'm going to change the speed of this, so I'm going to put it at 0.2, but I'm going to remove that event. But what I'm actually going to do as well as that, and this is how you can chain things together, I'm copying from here the one I commented out that triggers the fade in event. Okay, so I'm going to fade it out, and then when fade out is finished, I'm going to fade it back in. So let's watch the effect of that. So this just shows you how you can add events at any time, and this is what you were working on all your processors for, so you could try and figure out what was going to happen. So it fades back in, and then it'll stop. What I can do is I can say, right, okay then, let's copy this event creation. When I've removed the fade in one, let's add the fade out one. So what we're saying is that when this event's finished, start the other one. So we're constantly fading in and then fading out, fading in and fading out. And watch the effect of that. Fade back in, fade back out. Fade back in, fade back out. If we make it a little bit faster, we get more of a pulse effect. So this is going to take 2 seconds to fade in and out, so it should be more pulsy this time. Okay. In the next video, what I'll show you is how to do a blackout effect using a special tile sheet that's black, obviously. Okay.